The Las Vegas Raiders just pulled off the kind of offseason that makes the entire league stop and stare. 3 wins last season, the worst record in the NFL. And somehow, in the span of a few weeks, this franchise flipped the entire script. A Heisman Trophy winner and national champion in Fernando Mendoza is about to walk through the door as the #1 overall pick. A completely rebuilt offensive line, anchored by Pro Bowl center Tyler Linderbaum, is waiting for him. And a defensive front seven loaded with fresh faces like Kwity Paye, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, and a returning Malcolm Koonce suddenly looks like a unit that can cause real problems. This is not a slow rebuild. This is a franchise that woke up and chose violence. But here's the part most people are missing. None of this happens if the Raiders do not make one brutal decision first. Pete Carroll was let go the day after the regular season ended. One day. That tells you everything about how far apart the vision was between the coaching staff and the front office. Now John Spytek is running football operations with full control. Tom Brady is in his ear as minority owner, and their handpicked head coach Clint Kubiak finally gives Spytek a partner who sees the game the same way he does. For the first time, the GM and the head coach are building the same team. That changes everything. And what they have built so far is just the beginning. Because the free agency class might be the best in the entire NFL, the offensive line has a depth piece nobody is talking about yet. There's a veteran quarterback decision that could shape Mendoza's entire development, trade targets are still on the board, and 10 draft picks are loaded and ready to fire. Every single one of those stories connects back to one question. How close are the Raiders to being a real threat? The answer might surprise you. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Raiders and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. 1 week into the new league year, Greg Rosenthal released his initial top 101 free agent rankings. And when you line up which team signed the most players from that list, the Las Vegas Raiders are sitting right near the top with 6. The Washington Commanders have 7, the Houston Texans have 6, and the New York Jets have 5. Sounds close on paper. It is not close at all, because the Raiders' highest-ranked signing, Tyler Linderbaum, came in at number 3 overall. Their next 4, Kwity Paye at 28, Nakobe Dean at 38, Quay Walker at 40, and Jalen Nailor at 63, all landed inside the top 65. That is elite-level talent at every position they targeted. Now look at what the other teams actually did. The Commanders signed 7 players? Sure, but a big chunk of those are re-signings. Keeping your own guys is smart, nobody is arguing that. But paying more money to maintain the same roster is not the same as making your team better overnight. The Texans signed 6 names too, but their highest-ranked player is Reed Blankenship at 76 on PFF. After him, it drops fast. Braden Smith sits at 118. Sheldon Rankins is a re-sign. A Wyatt Teller and Ed Ingram fill needs. But the quality gap between their class and the Raiders' class is massive. Houston added volume. Las Vegas added impact. And here's the detail that separates everything. Out of all 6 Raiders signings in the top 101, only 1 is a re-sign. That means 5 brand new starters walked into that building ready to change the roster from day one. Not depth pieces, not rotational guys, starters. And the man who put it all together still has 10 draft picks in his pocket, which brings us to something nobody expected him to do next. Last season, the Raiders' offensive line was called the worst one professional handicapper had ever seen. Quarterbacks had no time. The pocket collapsed before plays could even develop. So when John Spytek went out and signed Tyler Linderbaum to anchor the center position, that was the headline move everyone noticed. But the signing that might matter just as much barely made the news. Former San Francisco 49ers guard Spencer Burford quietly agreed to a 1-year deal, reuniting with Clint Kubiak from their shared time in that Shanahan coaching tree. He is not coming in to be a star. He is coming in to be the kind of player that keeps a season from falling apart. Burford has roughly 2,400 career snaps across 4 seasons. He has started 38 games. He has played both left guard and right guard, and even logged a handful of snaps at both tackle spots in certain situations. That kind of versatility matters more than people realize because statistics show that last season, roughly 50% of all offensive snaps across the NFL were played with at least one backup on the offensive line. Injuries are not a possibility. They are a guarantee. And when they hit, you need a guy who has been there before and can step in without the whole thing crashing down. That creates a real competition with second-year guard Caleb Rogers, who started 6 games down the stretch in his first season and put up 284 offensive snaps. Rogers looked promising, but he also gave up 2 sacks against the Kansas City Chiefs in the season finale. Burford is not necessarily better, but he brings the kind of pressure that forces a young player to earn his spot every single day. And that competition feeds directly into the biggest question this roster still has to answer. So, multiple reports confirm the Raiders are actively searching for a veteran quarterback. Fernando Mendoza is the future. That part is settled. But Klint Kubiak said at the Combine that they might not want to start him right away. That means somebody has to hold the seat. And the name that keeps coming up is Joe Flacco. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported that Vegas has real interest in bringing the 41-year-old in as a backup/bridge option. Flacco has not had a cap hit above $5 million since 2018. He has bounced between the Jets, the Browns, the Colts, the Bengals, and back to the Browns. He knows what it means to walk into a new locker room and do his job. And scouts at the Combine actually compared a young Flacco coming out of Delaware to Mendoza's playing style. That connection is not a coincidence. Then there is the name Raider Nation desperately wants to hear. Derek Carr publicly said he would be willing to help Mendoza in any way, that he knows the building, knows the fan base, and knows the Kubiak offense from his time with the New Orleans Saints. The loyalty runs deep, but his cap hit sits at $69.2 million after a restructure, and you would still have to trade for him. Draft capital going out the door, massive salary coming in. The math simply does not work right now, no matter how much the heart wants it to. Russell Wilson is the easiest name to cross off. The sourcing comes from Pro Football Talk. The fan base would not embrace it, and Wilson has no interest in getting benched after a few rough games for a first-year quarterback. The Raiders did too much good work this offseason to undo it with a move that splits the locker room, which means whoever they pick needs to fit one rule: $5 million or less, ready to mentor, and willing to step aside when Mendoza is ready to go. The Max Crosby trade to Baltimore fell apart when the Ravens backed out over medical concerns tied to a knee injury. That move would have brought 2 first-round picks to Las Vegas. It did not happen. So the Raiders lost the extra draft capital and the extra cap space they were clearly planning to use. That means trades are the next path to filling holes. And the first name on the block should be Tyree Wilson. Drafted 7th overall in 2023, Wilson has now played under 4 different head coaches. The Raiders will decline his 5th-year option by May 1st. Teams calling about Crosby can be redirected to Wilson. And a 2026 5th-round pick feels like fair value for a player who never got the coaching stability he needed. On the incoming side, free safety remains a massive hole. Jevon Holland sits on the New York Giants roster after what many consider his worst professional season, which screams buy low opportunity. He is 26 years old, went to Oregon, and was coached by Rob Leonard during Leonard's time in Miami back in 2021. If the Raiders offered their 3rd-round pick at 67 with a 6th-rounder coming back, that could be a conversation worth having. A true center fielder at safety would allow Isaiah Pola-Mao to play in the box and Jeremy Chin to line up where he belongs. On offense, Jacoby Brissett is another name that makes sense. He is on the Cardinals at roughly $4.8 million, has a real relationship with Tom Brady from their time in New England, and Arizona just signed Gardner Minshew as his backup. A late-round pick could get it done. And then there are 2 more players the Raiders could move. DJ Glaze, a 3rd-round pick from 2024 who allowed 10 sacks last season, could be flipped for a 6th-rounder if Charles Grant wins the right tackle job. Dekamarion Richardson, a 4th-round cornerback from that same class with reported maturity concerns, barely contributes on special teams, and sits behind Eric Stokes, Darian Porter, and Taron Johnson on the depth chart. A 2027 7th-round pick clears the roster spot and funds another small signing. But all these moves only matter if the coaching staff can actually develop the young talent already in the building. Here's a stat that should bother every Raiders fan. The 2025 draft class had 11 players, an 11-player class on a team that won 3 games, and Pete Carroll still would not put most of them on the field. Second-round wide receiver Jack Bech finished with just 20 catches for 224 yards across the entire season. Third-round picks Charles Grant and Caleb Rogers combined for 5 offensive snaps through the first 10 weeks. Fourth-round receiver Dante Thornton Jr. got buried behind 33-year-old Tyler Lockett, a mid-season addition Carroll brought in from Seattle. Meanwhile, veterans like Stone Forsythe and Kyu Blu Kelly, guys who followed Carroll from his Seahawks days, kept getting snaps they did nothing with. The season was lost by October, and the coach still would not turn the page. That is exactly why this coaching change matters beyond the scheme. Klint Kubiak inherits a group of second-year players who are practically untouched. Jack Bech showed flashes in his final 4 games, posting lines of 6 catches for 50 yards and 2 catches for 43 yards when he actually got on the field. Spytek publicly said he trusts Bech the football player and plans to move him all over the formation, the way Kubiak used Jackson Smith-Njigba in Seattle. Dante Thornton Jr. has the deep speed, but never got consistent reps to develop timing with any quarterback. Grant and Rogers are offensive linemen who barely got a chance to prove whether they belong. Add Brock Bowers into the mix, a tight end who completely changes the math at the skill positions. And suddenly, this wide receiver room does not look as thin as people think. Jalen Nailor bridges the gap as a reliable target, while the young guys grow into their roles under a coaching staff that actually wants to develop them. The real evaluation of Spytek's draft picks starts now, and that same philosophy carries straight into next month's draft. Fernando Mendoza, going number 1 overall to the Raiders, is the most locked-in pick in this entire draft. Nobody is trading up. Nobody is jumping ahead. The Heisman Trophy winner and national champion out of Indiana will be the first quarterback taken in the first round by this franchise since Jamarcus Russell back in 2007. That part is done, but what happens at pick 36 and pick 67 is where the real chess match begins, because the mock drafts cannot agree on anything. Every analyst has a completely different vision for what Spytek does on day 2, and that is exactly why this draft feels so unpredictable. PFF's latest mock sends Emmanuel Pregnon to Las Vegas at 36. He is a guard out of Oregon with rare power, nasty hands, and a reputation for finishing blocks through the whistle. The next pick at 67 goes to Dominique Orange, a massive nose tackle out of Iowa State at 6'2" and 322 pounds, who could eat up space in the middle of Rob Leonard's new 3-4 defense. Another mock takes a completely different route and has the Raiders selecting Emmanuel McNeil-Warren out of Toledo at 36, a defensive back who can play corner, safety, or nickel. He is the kind of versatile chess piece that every team in the league is hunting for right now. Then CBS has Caleb Banks, a huge defensive tackle out of Florida, falling to 36 with wide receiver Chris Bell out of Louisville at 67. The one position that keeps showing up as a question mark is wide receiver. Bell tore his ACL late in his final college season, which raises concerns about being ready week 1. But with 10 total picks loaded across all 7 rounds, Spytek has the flexibility to trade up, trade back, or stack talent wherever the board breaks his way. And when you zoom out and connect every move this front office has made, a much bigger picture starts to take shape. Take a step back and look at what this roster looked like 4 months ago. 3 wins. The worst record in football. A head coach who refused to develop young talent. A fan base that had every reason to check out. Now look at it today. A Pro Bowl center in Tyler Linderbaum anchoring the offensive line. a pass rusher in Kwity Paye, who has 30.5 career sacks walking into a brand new 3-4 scheme, 2 former Georgia national champions in Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker running the linebacker room together at just 25 years old, a second-year running back in Ashton Jeanty, who was one of the few bright spots last season, finally getting a real offensive line to run behind, and a franchise quarterback about to arrive on draft night for the first time in nearly 2 decades. That is not a rebuild that needs 3 more years. That is a roster that flipped in one offseason. The part that ties it all together is what is happening behind the scenes. Tom Brady waited for Kubiak specifically. Other candidates came through the door. None of them matched the fit. Brady and Spytek held the line even when the fan base pushed for somebody else, and they got the coach they wanted. That patience mirrors how they scouted Mendoza all season long at Indiana, watching him get better every single week on the way to a national championship. The Raiders are not guessing anymore. They have a process now, and the results are already showing up in every signing, every scheme decision, and every roster move. Nobody expected this team to be in this position right now. The rest of the AFC West is not paying attention yet. But when Mendoza takes his first snap behind a completely rebuilt line, with a defense full of new starters and a coaching staff that finally matches the front office vision, the conversation about the Las Vegas Raiders is going to change fast. And by then, it might already be too late for the teams that were sleeping on them.